When Adolf Hitler first launched Operation Barbarossa against the Soviet Union in the 1940s, he would have never guessed that even after destroying the Soviet Union, after forming German hegemony over the world, allied with the Japanese and the Italians, that the red tide would still survive, that the spectre of global socialism, the ideology of dying for the good of the people, for a planned economy, for a centralized state of communism, would survive in the dark of the night and return to create a new dawn in this world. But that is the world that we find ourselves in 1976, my friends. So let us go over it. Germany is led by Albert Speer. Speer has been somewhat efficient at his reforms, but he has failed to implement his own version of reformist National Socialism in its entirety. Meanwhile, the Nazis have created various puppet states in Europe. But no, our focus this time is on socialism. Unlike Italy or Spain, where the reformers and the fascists both failed to make their mark and lost out to completely unknown third parties like Junio Valerio Borghesi's Stratocratic fascism or the Spanish warlord era, which means the complete destruction of the Spanish nation-state. Some countries like France have achieved democratic socialism, while some countries continue to toy around with siding with the Nazis. In France, Antoine Pinet's successful reforms led to the creation of the Fourth French Republic, which distanced itself from Felipe Pétain's puppet state. No, instead a new democratic socialist regime was elected under Franco's Mitterrand. It opposes the Pacte Commission Frankreich under Adolf Wiesinger, which the Germans claim is the only remnant of the Aryan Frankish nation. But in other parts of Europe, socialism has shown itself to be much more efficient at brutally snatching power. Welcome to the Commonwealth of Britain. Oh, who would have thought that the great British Empire of 1916 would be the great communist empire of 1976? But that is true. For Jack Jones and his British Workers' Front seized power after the Himmler were defeated. But if that wasn't enough, a similar revolution was led by socialists in Ireland, by the IRA Tory. Claiming to be socialists, yet the IRA very much behaved like a hyper-nationalistic empire. At the same time, they opposed Germany and German dominance over Europe. Some other countries like Slovakia or Hungary continue to side with the fascists. The same goes for the independent state of Serbia, which has managed to defeat Tito's revolutionary forces. Meanwhile, in the Kingdom of Romania, we have a progressive constitutionalist government, which makes Romania one of the few Balkan nations to have a working democracy, completely surrounded by despots and fascists like Georgios Grivas' government in Greece. But there have been bigger revolutions elsewhere. When he called himself the Red Napoleon, people doubted Mikhail Tukhachevsky. They doubted his stratocratic communism, his absolute adherence to the ideology that the Red Army must be the center of public life if Russia is to ever be united again. But where are the doubters now? How have their lips been sealed? Oh, of course, because the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics has once again reunified Russia and stands tall against the Germans, ready to avenge Operation Barbarossa at a moment's notice. The Germans must be feeling the heat now. It's almost like everything that they have ever done has been undone by the events of the past few years. In the Republic of Turkey, a similar socialist revolution took place, this time by the ballot. Behiz Boran's Socialist Party, the TIP, got elected in the 1972 after they defeated both the Kemalists and the Liberals. In Iran, the socialists under Iraj Iskandari won the 3-year Iranian civil war. This has resulted in a situation where the United Arab Republic, a Ba'athist republic which is extremely pro-German in all but name, is now surrounded on two sides by socialist powers, which are also financed by the Soviet Union and its friend, the United States. And oh, the United States. They say that the Cold War has ended, that a period of détente may now begin. But how? The United States has been as much a loser of the Cold War as the Germans. They were defeated in Africa. They were defeated in Indonesia. They were also defeated in Italy, which did not join the OFN. All this, combined with the racial turmoil in the United States following the failed bills of civil rights, led to a new power rising in America, the radical left of the National Progressive Party under Gus Hall. Nobody took Gus Hall seriously in the election of 1968. And of course, he lost the NPP nomination. But by 1972, the American political landscape had changed so radically that there was no other option but Gus Hall. He promised the Americans that America would be back, that fascism would be crushed, that the people would have basic civil rights, that there would be housing, the financial crisis would be solved, and oh, did he deliver on his promises. Just like Tommy Douglas's Progressive Party, Gus Hall's initial few months seemed to be quite great for America. But many wonder, is this really what America is? A socialist communist power? That is this even the same America that we had a few years before? Nobody has the answer to this. Even in Africa, there are embers of popular socialism, like the Popular Republic of the Congo under Christopher Gebnier. He has reunified much of the Congo, and only a few parts remain under German occupation or under local warlords. But alas, after the destruction of Hans Hüttig's Reichsstadt, Africa is in a state of complete disarray. There is no hope for Africa. Everywhere it is just one warlord after the other. For example, take Michel Mikombero's Republic of Burundi. He is leading a new genocide against the Hutu minority. But there is still hope in Africa, hope under socialism. Look at countries like the Democratic Republic of Madagascar, where Gisele Rabesahala's government couped the German and the Jewish settlers and took over a new red revolution in an unlikely of place. And then of course we have the massive Pan-African unification forces, the West African Union under Felix Roland Momi and Ghana under Ebenezer Aku Adjei. This, combined with a multitude of its supporters, came together and defeated all the reactionaries, the emperors, the kings, and most importantly the free French, who have now been exiled to an Antarctic island in the middle of nowhere. The light of socialism has also taken over Liberia, which is now under occupation from the forces of Guinea and the Eburnean Republic. Oh yes, socialism has completely defeated all of the reactionary forces in West Africa. Elsewhere, there is also socialism in other places, like the Revolutionary Republic of Afghanistan. Financed by Tukhachevsky's USSR, the revolutionaries took over power from Hussein Mandialwal and King Zahir Shah's state. But unknown to Tukhachevsky, these revolutionaries are not really Bolsheviks. While their hold on power on the entire Afghanistan is as well really unsure, they adhere to the teachings of Mao that the rural proletariat can perform better than the urban proletariat in a state like Afghanistan. Turkey, Iran, Afghanistan. They form the three paramount socialist powers of West Asia, along with the People's Republic of the Arabian Gulf, which is basically the result of the sheikhs of Dubai and UAE being cooed by all of the Indian immigrant labor. Led by the charismatic socialist leader Gurudas Dasgupta and secretly financed by Tukhachevsky's government, they removed the reactionary sheikhs, and now the unstable People's Republic continues. While the Arab minority wants to join the United Arab Republic, the three paramount socialist powers, the Republic of Turkey, the Socialist Federation of Iran, and the Revolutionary Republic of Afghanistan, want to prevent the People's Republic of the Arabian Gulf from joining the United Arab Republic. And that forms the main confluence of conflict in the Middle East. If the United Arab Republic does anything in Dubai, then it will lead to a massive war where the United Arab Republic, supported by the Germans, will need to fight the Republic of Turkey, the Iranians and the Afghans supported by the USSR, and this can potentially turn into a flashpoint for Operation Barbarossa 2.0. And who knows what will happen after that. Meanwhile, India is also under socialism, but led by Gandhian socialism of J.B. Kripalani, which pledges for a new rural-focused socialism over urbanism. Gandhi's men they wish to create a new ruralist utopia where the farms and the agriculture decide the future of the revolution. Elsewhere in the Azad Hind government, M.Z. Kiani has taken over after the death of Subhash Bose. Kiani's government belongs to the Singapore clique of the Bosists. This clique wants the vision of India that Bose wanted, a modern republic which combines socialism, national socialism, and also democracy. They reject the regionalists or the Bengal clique which wants only nationalism or only Marxist-Leninism. Who knows what the future holds for India? Will India be unified with the vision of Gandhi or Bose, or will it always remain divided? In the Far East, Japan is led by Muto Akira's government, a fascist government. Muto Akira has taken power after a coup against the democratic government. He is a general, and he has enforced hardline fascism on Japan. In Manchukuo, Katagura Tadashi's Kanto-gun faction has taken over. These are basically statocratic corporatists, rule of the bureaucracy and the army. The Kwangtung army reigns sovereign in Manchukuo and sometimes doesn't even listen to the central government in Japan. In China, after the defeat of Long Yun's forces, the Republic of China under Gao Zongwu finally made Wang Jingwei's dream come true. Now the Republic of China is the sole force of Chinese nationalism, whether people like it or not. But some warlords like Guangxi remain outside of their grasp. In Guangdong, Matsushita Masaharu's government continues. But there are other instances of popular socialism, chief among them being Thailand, which went from being a monarchy led by a despotic dictator to a democracy led by a socialist leader in the form of Sufa Sirimanol. All of this is called by scholars as the red tide. The red tide is basically because of the failure of National Socialism and liberal democracy. And it is also because of the overwhelming success of the USSR. Even in Vietnam and the Khmer Republic, The Khmer Republic had a socialist government for some time before the fascists took over, and in the Vietnam, Trong Chinh continues the Viet Minh's advance. The Viet Minh have defied the Japanese and subjected socialism on the entirety of Vietnam, with the Japanese utterly failing to solve the issue. But elsewhere in the Philippines, the Japanese have been more successful. The Philippine Shoto Rinji Seifu, or the Army of Occupation of the Philippines, is led by the 14th Army under Masazumi Inada. They came to power after leading an invasion of the Philippines which had been taken over by an independence movement in the 1960s. In Malaya, we see a north-south divide. The Federation of Malaya is a paternalist dictatorship led by Said Jafar al-Barr and supported by the Japanese. While in the north, we have the Malayan National Liberation Army under Chin Peng's communism. The two Malayas are extremely different from one another. In the south, it is mostly led by a clique of elites and army officers loyal to Japan, and in the north, it is a collectivist communist microstate, or more importantly, it is Maoist, with the thoughts of Mao Zedong. They have extremely good relations with the Revolutionary Republic of Afghanistan, which also claims to be Maoist. In Indonesia, the failure of Sukarno to win the Indonesian Civil War quick enough led to General Suharto leading a coup d'etat. Suharto quickly defeated the remaining factions and brought peace to Indonesia after 4 long years of suffering. Now Suharto has established his own new order government on Indonesia, a centralized force that looks to garner support everywhere from Jakarta to West Papua. The tide has also touched nations like Australia. It was majorly influenced by revolution in Britain. Although Australia still has a democracy, the success of the revolution in Britain and the election of Gus Hall led to the creation and the victory of the ALP in the elections of 1972. But no other region has been so touched by the red tide, with the sole exception of the Middle East, than Latin America. Here, socialism has a few different words. Revolutionary Gaitanismo, the ideology of Fidel Castro's Ortodoxos regime in Cuba, which calls for a new Latin American order built on socialist nationalism. Do not confuse this with National Socialism, which the Gaitanists oppose. The ideology itself is taken from Jorge Eliacar Gaitan. Sadly for Fidel Castro, Colombia itself, even though it is socialist and has good relations with Cuba, is not Gaitanist but communist. Supported again by American and USSR agents, the Colombian FARC, the Liberation Forces of Colombia under Gilberto Vieira White, took power after winning the Colombian Civil War. And the red tide kept spreading. Elsewhere in Ecuador, there was a Guevarist revolution led by Manuel Agustin Aguirre and Che Guevara. Ecuador is now one of the most radical socialist states in the world, a closed-off, isolated hermit kingdom. But Che Guevara then left Ecuador to lead another revolution in Paraguay, this time under the leadership of Miguel Ángel Soler and the Partido Comunista Paraguayo. This massive red tide led to an intervention by Argentina and Brazil and also Uruguay, but to the utter shock of the international community and the pleasure of the Soviets, Che Guevara and the Paraguayans successfully led a brutal guerrilla war and managed to defeat the Brazilians and the Argentines and force them to the negotiating table. Paraguay won the war, and after that Guevara disappeared to lead yet another revolution. Who knows where he is today? Costa Rica, definitely not, and also not El Salvador or Belize, which have progressive governments. Maybe he's in Honduras, where Osvaldo López Arellano's dictatorship continues. Or maybe he's in Nicaragua, where Luis Somoza Debaille's despotic dynasty rule continues. Or maybe he's in Haiti, aiding Jacques Stéphane Alexi's socialist regime. Who knows? But everybody fears. Especially the Chileans, or the Argentine dictatorship of Alejandro Agustin Llanusse. But the Brazilians surely do not, because the right-wing PSD government was toppled by Leonel Brizola's progressive PTB. Brizola promises a new left-wing Varguist revolution in Brazil. He has some extremely radical land reform bills. And after the failed coup by the army, Brizola has consolidated his power in Brazil. The PTB is now the darling of the masses, and the doors are now open for Brizola to be the second Getulio Vargas and do whatever he wishes to do. Similar to Romulo Betancourt's progressive regime in Venezuela. And that is the state of the world. A world torn apart by turmoil between socialism, National Socialism, democracy. A world where men like Che Guevara or Mikhail Tukhachevsky are feared. But most importantly, a world where the Germans have lost. Despite winning everything, the world has once again came to the same standstill that it was before 1939. And with the second Operation Barbarossa being all but imminent, who knows what the future holds for Europe?